Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Where Work Meets Life. I'm Dr. Laura, and I'm thrilled today to be here with Mike Horne. He is a kindred spirit. We both presented at SHRM NorCal in San Francisco last September, and he, like me, really believes in and values the importance of great leadership. He's the author of The People Dividend. We'll talk about his latest book. He's also an executive and organization development coach. And today's episode is on the People Dividend, leadership strategies to unlock employee potential. So Mike brings a wealth of global corporate resource experience and as an organizational development leader. He is a best-selling author, a keynote speaker like myself. He's an executive coach like myself. He does a lot of the same things I do in another part of the world, but our paths collided, and I'm so grateful for that. He teaches. He's the chairperson of the Graduate Human Resources and Leadership Studies programs at Golden Gate University in San Francisco, and he's released 2 books, and his second book we'll be talking about today, along with what's happening in the world of organizations and leadership. So welcome, Mike.
Dr. Laura, thank you so much. It's a kind introduction, and I'm so pleased to hear you identify us as kindred spirits in helping to make people and organizations better versions of who and what they are today.
Yeah, absolutely. We're on the same journey, and I'm so excited to speak with you. And I want to know more about yourself, other than that brief intro, and what led you to your journey of wanting to make workplaces and human lives better, Mike?
I began my career in labor management relations and influenced by Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta, who led the formation of the United Farm Workers. So I started off in labor relations because I was interested in how people resolve conflict, and I probably this natural peacemaker tendency part of me got involved in that. But then, beginning a career with day-to-day labor management relations, I thought, oh, this is not a very happy place to be for the long term. People were really role-bound. I mean, each acting out on different management roles, union representative roles. So it really led me into the world of learning and development. And I've always described myself as a coach, mentor, and teacher. So while I've had some roles in very big corporations and in some smaller corporations, at the root of it has always been, how do I live out my humanistic values? And how do I help people? I'm not afraid to be called a helper. I mean that in a positive sense, like a leader in the organization development field. Recently deceased Ed Schein talked a lot about helping and calling organization development and coaching a helping profession.
I love that. And I did a keynote yesterday, and I talked about the 4 most important words are, how can I help you? The 4 most important words for managers, leaders, and human beings in their relationships.
Boy, that is so true. And I've been thinking about that in the context of an observation that many in the human resources field are sharing, and that is around the erosion of middle management in organizations. Big or small, it doesn't really matter. One of the great thinkers right now in human resources, he always writes an article at the beginning of the year from his desk at the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. And he writes an article, what will human resources look like in 2023, 2024, 2020? So his recent article on 25, he says it's going to look a lot like the same as it has, because organizations are still dealing with post-pandemic. What does it mean to have people at remote locations versus at work? What's the impact on organizational culture? Lots of questions that we still haven't resolved, and AI is changing and impacting that as well. So I love your question. How can I help? Because with the erosion of middle management, most managers are tasked with working too. They're not there to solely develop you. So being selective about having that kind of question really invites a conversation for development. I love that.
Absolutely. And I went into the helping professions too. I went into psychology, but then I soon found myself drawn to organizational psych and career development and helping people in the sphere of their working lives. But I'm very much a helper as well.
Well, that's great. No shame in it.
No, it's something yeah, the world of work needs more helpers like us. That's for sure, Mike.
I mean, I remember when I started off, I worked in one of those big consulting firms, traveling around the world, and we were taught to avoid the word help. But today, how can I assist you? It sounded more something.
Professional, right? Or corporate, right?
Right, or corporate.
And yeah, it's all about billables. If assist will make more money than help, we got to use the word assist. Or better yet, solve. So, talking about solving the problems in the world of work, of which there are many, you released the People Dividend in November. So, for those of you watching on YouTube, I'm holding it up. It's a beautiful book, shiny and blue and, great looking and packed with information. It's a beautiful, beautiful book about leadership strategies for how we unlock people's potential. So, tell me, a bit more about the book. What inspired you to write it? I know it's no small feat writing a book because I'm doing one right now. I'm almost done my manuscript, but I want to know why you wrote it and how it's helping and impacting people, Mike.
Maybe a sense of forlornness or a sense of depression, as I think about it, contributed to the book. What I write about in the early pages of the book is how I often felt like a cog in the wheel, that despite doing good work, being an outstanding performer, getting bonuses for performance, I would at times have managers who, when we sat down for a weekly check-in or a weekly review or whatever period it happened, they'd say, "How's it going?" And I'd say, "Oh, here it is." And I don't think they really had much interest in it because they were managing their own careers, navigating their own paths and networks. And it was that sense of, it's just kind of, well, I'm just sort of a cog in the wheel here. So it came out of that sense, and along with what is going on in the world of work, the remote work, feelings of isolation, engagement being at an all-time low in U.S. companies, and I believe in North America, engagement at an all-time 30-year record low. The sense of a gig economy. More people not understanding what organization means in the conventional sense because they're putting careers together in new ways, in different ways. So it was the convergence of all of these factors, feeling like a cog in the wheel, the environmental conditions shaping the world of work in organizations that led me to the People Dividend, which is all about humanistic values as the way of creating engagement. And it's basically a book about dignity, kindness, and respect. That's what the book's about. It's a guide to that at work and, as a result, a guide to engagement.
Dignity, kindness, and respect. You said that so well and so eloquently. And it's simple, but it's powerful. And I see that in my research on toxic leadership. I see that missing in those cases where you get toxic bosses who are leading with ego, fear, control, greed, and all these different things, narcissism, etc. And, we don't have the respect, and it's really killing people physically, mentally, emotionally, and productivity wise.
This is such a key topic, toxicity in leadership or toxic leadership. It's quite some time ago. I may even put it at 15 to 20 years in the past, that Warner Burke, the distinguished organization development scholar at Columbia, a lifelong contributor and shaper of the field of organization development, talked about the increase of toxicity in leadership and how we had reached a turning point in the management literature that was more about toxicity than it was about greatness. And, I certainly, when people like Warren Bennis, my early mentor, were writing about leaders, it really was about celebrity leadership, sort of. And then the tide turned. And can you tell me just a little bit more, because I'm so curious about it, is where you see this toxicity today? Is it on the rise? Is it on the increase? Does it just seem a permanent part of some organizations? And can we do something about it?
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah. I'm trying to do something about it with my book and my platform and my movement to hashtag stop toxic bosses is the movement. But kind of like Me Too. Me Too started in a retaliation against the BS of the way that women were, having to deal with the treatment of, sexual advances, sexual assault, etc. When it comes to toxic bosses, it's about, people get trapped in these situations and it's killing their mental health. And I'd say it's on the rise from all of my research. And the reason is, in an uncertain economy, an unstable world, the post-pandemic world, I think people are scared. They're living in more fear. And when they live in more fear, there's a more chance for toxicity to rise as people, as the toxic ones try to control and hold on to power and hold on to greed.
Well, so true. And it really is that uncertainty that causes us to hallucinate and to perhaps contribute to some of this toxicity that exists in organizations today and in leaders.
Totally. So how do we combat it through the strategies you talk about? So what are the things that organizations and the CEO, okay, the executive team, what do they need to know in order to turn things around and create highly engaging cultures?
Well, I have the good fortune to have a business that relies on coaching founders, chief executives, individuals in the C-suite, and those who aspire to the C-suite. Many of the executives come to when they're in trouble. I'll be honest, because these are successful people for the most part. They've built strong technical careers. They've built, and because they were successful technically and had suitable interpersonal skills, they really advanced their vertical organizational careers, ending up in key positions in organizations. So working with scientists, technologists, chief technology officers, what I have learned is that these very successful people often come to me because something is seriously broken. They're no longer connecting with their team. There's the differences between younger talent in the organization and their peer group is causing some fissures that stifle innovation. Or they've, as a founder, they've onboarded a new CEO. I mean, they've grown the business very successfully, and now they've taken somebody out of a Fortune 100 and brought them into the business. These are the challenges that people deal with. So it's in these moments, I was a student of Bob Keegan and Lisa Leahy at Harvard Graduate School of Education, worked on the immunity to change. It's figuring out how we overcome our own immunities to change so that we can continue a growth journey, which is, in the end, all that makes us successful is the ability to learn.
In terms of what you're hearing, what feedback you're hearing on this book and the impacts it's having so far, can you share that?
Well, thank you. That's a great question. And I am so delighted that the book is well received. I am delighted for the feedback on Amazon. I encourage anyone who reads the book or picks up a copy to leave a review on Amazon. We are reaching, more audiences with this. And of course, I'm always anxious to get the concepts of the People Dividend out to people. So, take a look on Amazon, call me, be in touch with me, because what makes a book successful, it's a lot like what makes a successful executive and organization development coach. I describe it very easily. It's having clients. And, getting your message out is about selling books. And in a very crowded business book market, as you well know, there are a lot of titles that I don't think about competing with it because I think you really have to define your audience and understand your audience. And my group of, as I've described, as well as the many human resources professionals with whom I interact with, they're attracted to these topics. So it's really letting people know that you've got a message out there.
And an important message. And I think with the trends going on, I mean, the trends in the media, there's so much negativity right now. There's so much fear. I mean, we've definitely had our fair share of difficult changes and wars and polarization. And so why does kindness matter more than ever? Kindness and integrity and respect, the values that you talk about, Mike.
I'm working on a very big project right now on civility in an organization for a very large healthcare system. And I think it's just another way that we're talking about differences in the workplace. There's all kinds of backlash around diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's very difficult for me to understand that, given that we have enough research that tells us that diverse teams, understanding diverse customers helps you make money. So, I'm a capitalist. Sorry, no apologies though. So I think that now we're talking about incivility. So we've got a new language around it. People have differences at work. These differences and how we handle and manage them make a huge impact on customer outcomes, patient outcomes. So let's use the language that's in flavor today. It's still going to be about to focus on dignity, kindness, and respect as a leader. I mean, there's still going to be two basic things: understanding yourself, who you are, what makes you tick, and then secondly, understanding your agency and how you can use your agentic behavior to bring about change in yourself and others.
No, I love the way you said that. And I think it sometimes feels insurmountable to be able to make a difference or make an impact, but it starts with each one of us, doesn't it?
Well, yes. We have to understand our relationship to the systems in which we live and operate. I'm a Lewinian by background and trade. Kurt Lewin, the psychologist, social psychologist, and Lewin's famous dictum or equation is that behavior is a function of person and environment. Right. So I'm always sort of steeped in, okay, it's a little bit about you. It's also a little bit about the environment. And, what are the behaviors that we design in order to create these fundamental shifts that make for meaningful change?
Really, really well put. And I've chosen to focus my career on the individuals. So running Canada Career Counseling, helping people find meaning, purpose, and fulfillment in their careers. And just at that individual level, helping them understand themselves and what makes them tick and their values. And then going into workplaces and saying, oh my gosh, like this, this structure, the way it's led, the way the culture is, this isn't going to work to grow and help humans thrive, help humans grow and thrive. So then I go and try to make an impact on organizations. And then it's hard not to become cynical sometimes, by the way, because you'll do a lot of work as an outsider and then, things will shift. They'll bring on a new CEO and they'll ditch all that work that was done. And I just see that time and time again. I see that, where a great culture can turn into a less great culture very quickly. Have you seen that, Mike?
Yes. And first, I want to say, Dr. Laura, that I love the way the parallel paths that we've taken. I mean, you've started from the individual level and focused out to the organizational level. I started the organizational level and focused now on the individual level in many ways. And it was big and scary to make that change for me.
Yeah, no doubt.
So I love that parallel path because I think we, have such a great understanding of wanting to help again. And to your question about, have I seen, out with what is that? In with the new, out with the old. However it goes, right? The expression of a revolving set of strategies, a revolving set of leaders, or worse yet, leaders who don't leave, and strategies that aren't updated, and people stagnate. That's the other side of that. I worked with a client recently for a project that should have been done in about 6 weeks, and I think they kept me engaged for about a year and a half. And a lot of it was just, well, we're just going to hope it's going to all work out. And I kept saying, well, it's not.
Oh gosh.
So, it's a lot of, yes. So I've seen the opposite as well.
No kidding. So, what what do you recommend to organizations for hiring and developing leaders that can, help to bring out the best in people and unlock their potential? What should organizations do?
Well, thank you, Dr. Laura. That's a great question around talent acquisition and talent development because it's such a central, topic now in leadership and human resources development and management. I've had the privilege of leading like global talent acquisition teams in some organizations, managing teams in India and China and Singapore and the US and Canada and London. What we have to do more of in talent acquisition is take advantage of AI. We need to have chatbots on screens. We need to let candidates know where they stand, putting dignity, kindness, and respect. Because a lot of times people don't know where they stand with an organization or an organization never responds. So I think we can do more with robotics in that regard and help people make these processes more efficient. Part of what's, created some challenge to all of this in the US is with unemployment at 4%, there's not a lot of incentive for employers to engage in developing more robust systems that help in talent selection. But as Jim Collins identified a long time ago, you have to have the right people on the bus.
Yeah, you absolutely do. And I would add to that, you need to get the wrong ones off the bus at the next stop before the bus, does a full circuit. Get them off at the next stop. We're very, very slow to fire and, too fast to hire, at least up here in Canada. I'm sure it's the same in the US though.
As a human resources executive, as I matured as a human resources executive, one key piece of insight is that if it wasn't working out, end it quickly. Unfortunately, there are some processes that take place for good reason, due process. I mean, it should be part of our, systems, or where just indecisiveness makes, a situation go on far too long. So you're spot on. I would endorse your insight and recommendation there about, treating each other like adults in the workplace, often a very difficult thing.
Yeah, and I specialized in remote and hybrid work. I still do for 20 years. It was my PhD research was leading virtual teams, like remote team leadership, all of that. And I felt like when the pandemic hit, oh my God, we were sitting on Pandora's box of knowledge and IP around how to do this well. And then I see the mass calling people back to offices and I'm, oh my goodness, right? Like, didn't we learn? Like, why are we treating it like we're operating daycares, right? I mean, I'm a big fan of bringing people together, absolutely, but I don't think it needs to be 5 days a week and 5 brutal commutes a week to grow a culture.
I must share this with you and your audience. At one time, I was employed by Nortel Networks, which also at one time was Canada's largest employer. Maybe they went by Northern Telecom at some time, but when I was there...
Oh yeah, we were proud of that, yeah.
I was part of Nortel Networks, and it was the best job title I think I ever had. I was called Chief Learning Strategist for Nortel Networks. And it was at a time when they were trying to break into the internet plumbing business. But certainly, one of the funny things that happened because they were pioneers in remote work and, not in remote work, but enabling the technology, ISDN lines, all that sort of early big bandwidth, that they paid me to work at home. They gave me an incentive to work at home like 2 or 3 days a week. And they, bought me in their office in person. It's just crazy. I mean, from sort of being incentivized and being paid an additional bonus to work at home for a few days a week versus today. It's sort of incredible.
Isn't that? Oh, so yeah.
Sorry what happened in Nortel.
Yeah, thank you. That was very unfortunate. Okay, so we talked about developing leaders, hiring the right leaders. I'm always curious to know, what role do you feel that spirituality has when it comes to leadership and workplaces? I've been talking about this a bit more and definitely, on it in my own life, but I'm just curious if that has come up much.
Well, I keep a few things on my desk. One is an intention bowl.
Nice. I like it.
Another is indigenous Shaleko picture of the great sun god. Does spirit play a role? I've always taught my clients what I've been taught is that we have four sort of spheres in life to manage. One is our intellect, one is our emotion, one is our spirit, and the other is our physical. And, most people tend to worry so much about work and they forget these other dimensions, which are so important to bringing, I think, to living a full life.
Yes, well put. I love the way you put that. So simple. And the word spirit, right? And spirit can mean different things to us. And it can mean a greater connection to the earth and Mother Earth. And that's what the indigenous have really taught, and other nations as well. But it can mean a connection to the earth. It can mean a connection to each other. It can be part of a religion or not, right? And I think, we too often group it with religion, and it's not necessarily part of an organized religion.
I've gone to a Catholic church and I've been trained by a shaman.
There you go. Love it. Me too. Grew up Catholic and now really open-minded to a lot else going on in the universe. We'll say that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we lose touch of that when we get just in our heads and just in our egos and our minds. When it comes to work, we're missing the other elements. And we create cultures that are highly cognitive in nature, highly ego-focused, and then we lose the heart piece and we lose the spirit or soul piece. And they become very more robotic, I would say.
Yes, this integration is so important in the exercise of leadership to bring discernment to what you do, to understand what's work, what's not work, what's possible, what's not possible. I think this is such an important topic in the world of leadership.
Thank you. Thank you for endorsing that. So I always talk about work-life wellness versus work-life balance. I don't like the term work-life balance. And I'm curious what work-life wellness means to you and how it plays out in your life and working with so many executives and leaders. How do you stay well, Mike?
A wonderful question. I've always hated the work-life balance as well. I've usually talked about it in terms of having an effective work-life blend. And I love what you do with work-life wellness. For me, and I've posted a couple of short TikTok videos recently on this topic and because it was around the holidays, I was thinking about how people manage stress and what advice that I would give to my clients. And I have a couple of simple things. One is just to get up every once in a while, to stand up, get out of your chair, have a conversation with someone. If you work solo or remotely, just to get up and get out of your chair. For me, I'm an avid hiker. The backyard of my home is the Santa Rosa San Jacinto National Monument. So I have the pleasure of hiking with some endangered wildlife, the Bighorn Peninsula sheep. So, you got to find something that works for you. If you don't have it.
Beautiful. I love hiking as well. Absolutely. And I've been training on hills so that I can do bigger and bolder hikes. So we're aligned there too. You'll have to come up to our Rocky Mountains and hike them if you haven't already.
Yeah, I did a 1,900-foot elevation gain yesterday, so I was happy with my hike.
Amazing. Amazing. Okay, so I want to hear a little bit about your podcast as well as what you read and listen to for your own growth and development.
My podcast, the People Dividend podcast, has great guests such as Dr. Laura. So I'm encouraging you to tune in for a fascinating episode. And again, to leave some comments wherever you listen, whether you're listening on YouTube or watching on YouTube or on Apple or Spotify or wherever you happen to watch and listen to. Tune in to the episode with Dr. Laura. She is typical of the guests whom we engage, thought leaders on people and culture, on helping executives to grow organizations, on dealing with the complexities of the modern work life. We have great guests like Dr. Laura, Jim Harder, the chief data scientist at Gallup, a great interview recently. Dr. Beverly Kay, spanning her decades of work in career and employee engagement. So, fascinating guests. I encourage you to tune in. Just if you as you are interested in where work meets life, Dr. Laura's podcast, you'll find again this kindredness that exists between the podcasts.
Awesome. I'm glad we can be ally podcasts, Mike. That is awesome. Do you have any favorite books lately or books that have really called out to you that you want to share?
Yes, I've recently read Dick Boyatzis's book, The Science of Change. Very interesting for all of you. I just had a chapter come out in an edited book. I wrote a chapter on AI and human resources. I don't have the title in front of me right now. And Charles Duhigg's Super Communicators. Those are some of the books that I've read and enjoyed recently. Two of the books that I've enjoyed recently.
Beautiful. We will share all of that on the show notes, absolutely, and in our monthly e-newsletter.
And I'm looking forward to reading your book soon.
Oh, thank you. Toxic Bosses. That's not the title, but it's part of the title. But Toxic Bosses comes out in January 13th, 2026. This is a process, but it'll be powerful. So thank you. Thank you for inspiring me by writing 2 books. This is People Dividend's your second. How did your first go? And tell us just the title of that and what it's about.
Well, every book is an opportunity to learn. And the first book took a very long time to write. I'd call it years as opposed to months. The People Dividend, much quicker, probably 18 months in development. Certainly understanding just the mechanical process of bringing a book to market. Having been through it once, you sort of learn about all of the elements that you need to consider as an author. Choosing launch dates. For example, you're going to launch your book in January 13th, 2026. One of the best times to launch a book targeted towards business people, because that's where most of the sales occur in the first quarter of kinds of books like that. So that's a great launch date, actually. And you'll be able to do a lot with pre-launch. So it's stuff like that. It's more bringing to market, because through our other avenues of coaching, speaking, we bring our message about the People Dividend. Books, it's a new way to engage a side of your brand.
Absolutely. So if you didn't need to sleep and could use that time for whatever else you wanted that you haven't been getting to, what would it be, Mike?
Yes, spending time with family. I mean, that's the most important thing, in all the different ways that can happen.
Yeah, spending time with family. I would agree with that. And if you could have one wish for a better world when it comes to workplaces and leadership, what would it be?
If I had to choose one, it'd probably be kindness, but dignity, kindness, and respect if I get 3.
Dignity, kindness, and respect. And wouldn't that be beautiful if we could have more of those 3 things across organizations, across industries, and across leaders?
In our own lives. Feeling that I am treated with dignity, I am treated with kindness, I am treated respectfully.
Beautifully put. And I think we have way more in common across belief systems, across cultures than we have differences. But we love to focus on those differences, don't we? And the polarity.
Thank you, Dr. Laura. That's so true.
Yes. So, with that said, thank you, Mike. Thank you for being so open to share your journey, talk about the People Dividend, talk about all the great work that you're doing in this world. And I'm so glad our paths collided. And I hope that we can end up speaking on the same stages in the future. And looking forward to our continued journeys.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much, Dr. Laura. I've really enjoyed being a guest on Where Work Meets Life. Great podcast, and so fortunate that our paths have crossed.
Thank you, Mike, and stay well. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Where Work Meets Life. If you found this content valuable, please rate and review the episode and share with others who may benefit. Visit me on my website at drlaura.live and sign up for my monthly e-newsletter full of tips and resources. I'm also a passionate keynote speaker and would be delighted to speak with you on your speaking needs. Stay well.